Hi there, good evening everyone. My name is Petrus Naoma, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can create the design which we had discussed in part 1 of the Inkscape Flutter series. So for this part 2 we are going to code this design over here, and then we're going to see how far we can get using Flutter. So if you need help on how you can install Flutter, which is the framework that uses Dart to create this mobile application, then you can get it from the link which I will put on the top right of your screen. And then, cool, let's see what we can do for tonight. So from here, I'm just going to open up my command line. And since I already have the Flutter SDK installed for this project, I will be using Visual Studio Code as my IDE. So I'm just going to cd or change directory over into sources since that's where I keep my code. Then I'm going to say Flutter create, how do we call this app? Contacts. Cool. Now we just wait for Flutter to do its thing. As you can see, it's saying creating project contacts over in the sources directory or in the sources folder, doing a pub-get. Okay, all the packages are installed. Now we can start coding. So I'm going to cd or change directory over into contacts since that's the name of the app. And then I'm just going to press code, type code, or and then a dot so that it opens in VS Code on this current space. Over here we have a new project created up. Now that we have the Flutter project open, I need you to go over to the lib folder and then click on. So there will be a bunch of boilerplate comments which will get started on the there we go, it's about to build. In the meantime, let's actually delete these other folders because we'll not be creating a Linux application or a Mac OS application at this point in time. So I'm just going to move these to the recycle bin. Okay, so our demo application is actually up. So over here you see that the starting application has something of a header. We can wait, we have time. Something of a header, as well as the title, and then a button, which if you press a lot of times, will update the count which you see on the screen. So we don't need any of that for now, right? So let's just start removing out the boilerplate. Backspace that, remove all this. So but at the end of the day, this is all which we really need to have right now. So we just have the package name, material.dot, which is what we use for styling Android applications. Then we have our main function, which is the opening or the start of the program, and then the class my app, which you can actually rename to anything, but we'll just keep it as such, which then has a build method with a material app widget, which can take a title and home. So in Flutter, we work with what we call widgets. For now, you won't really have to understand the nitty-gritty details of it, but think of it more like building Legos. So, or you stick a lot of Legos together, then you have this beautiful towering structure, or you stick a lot of building blocks together until you get your application. So basically, that's the gist of it. So what we're going to do over here is that instead of coding in the main file, what we're going to do is go over to this new icon, new item, and then we create another class which we'll call home.dart. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to create a stateless widget by typing First we have to import the material dot dart. Oh, let me do that again so that IntelliSense kicks in. There we go. Import material dot dart, and then we're going to type STLESS, and then this is the shortcut to create a stateless widget, and then we're going to call this screen home page. So then for now, then we just save, then we go back to the main dot dart, and then we say that the title of our application, let's go back to our design. So our design here doesn't have a title, so or an app bar. So for now, actually this is the title which will be used when you minimize the screen. So Flutter demo, you see it Flutter demo there. So if I change this to contact QR, for instance, you will notice that the name should in theory also change. Sorry, let me just first call the home page in here. Wait for IntelliSense to do its thing. Then we import the library home.dart, which is what we created over there. And then this should be okay. It should be realized now. You should see blue squiggly lines, but okay, don't worry about that. It's no big deal. So as I was saying, the title will change over here. Okay, so if everything is okay and everything is up and running, you'll see that now you'll have a placeholder because in the home page we have a placeholder too. Cool. Let's get our hands dirty. So over here, over at the home.dart, just remove this constant real quick. We change this over to a column widget. So what we want is that we want to have these elements vertically stacked, right? So the best widget to use for this is a column widget. Don't be overwhelmed by all of the nitty-gritty details or all of the widgets because over time you'll get used to it. But for now, we'll use a column widget, and in the column there'll be a circular avatar, an image, and then text, text, and then we create a card for this and then another card for this, just for the simplicity of this tutorial. So back to this guy. So we say that we return a column. This column should, in theory, have children. And we're saying that your first child is a text, just for testing purposes. And we say testing, put a comma, then you'll see that it updates over here to testing. So that's the fun thing about Flutter. It has what we call hot reloading and hot restarting. So the moment you do something and you save, you'll be able to see the live update, which is really cool for debugging and creating prototypes like on the fly. So now what's happening here is that this is having a black background because we didn't wrap the column in what we call a scaffold. Okay, so what you need to do is that you just click on the column and then you say wrap with widget. So we wrap this with a scaffold. Then we change this over to a body, sorry. So the scaffold should have the body of the column. So what you'll see is that now you have a nice, better looking background. And in case you're wondering how I'm able to have this whole IntelliSense wrapping over, it's because of the Flutter extension, which I had installed for VS Code. First, you'll need the Dart extension, of course, and then the Flutter extension as well. And then just for fun, I also added in Alexis Villeras Torres's Flutter widget snippets. Super useful for me. So now you'll see that over there we have our text widget as we had described, and we also have this debug banner, and we don't want that. It doesn't look nice. So what we can do is that in the material app, just beneath that, you just say type debug show checked banner, and we set that property to false. So that removes the debug banner, how it actually looks. Okay, so now you notice that we have the scaffold, which has the body of the column and also the testing text which we put for demonstration. But hey, say you want to change the color of this scaffold or the color of the background. In order to do that, you just go right after the scaffold bracket, press enter, and then you type background color, and then you type out colors dot blue, and when you hit save, you will notice that the color changes immediately. So if you want it to be pink, you can have it as pink, or you could have it as amber, and you'll have it as such. Say you want to have a custom color. So what we then do is that we just type out color, and then you paste in that value. In this case, you'll have to put the 0x before it, and then FF, then remove these, and hit save, and then you'll see that we have the exact dark blue color as we have over here. And then you just put a const in front of that. That will remove the squiggly lines. Okay, awesome. So now our white text disappears, or our testing text disappears, and that is to be expected. But let's find out how we can fix that, and it's quite easy. Inside the bracket, just say comma, type style, and then you say text style. Put the bracket, then we say the color should be colors dot white. Once you save that, you'll notice that the color appears over there, but then it looks very tiny. So we can increase the size by setting the font size property, and let's say we set it to 24. Starting to grow bigger. Let's put it at 48. Then you can see that it's much more visible. But then still, this isn't good enough. Why? Because the text is over there in the corner and we want it somewhere around the center. So what you can do is that you have multiple ways to do this. You can either just wrap the column widget with the center widget, and that will wrap it in the center. Or, let me just remove this widget. Or you can set the main axis alignment property and then set the main axis as center. That will bring it over to the center of the scaffold, and then we still want it centered over here. Then you set the cross axis alignment to center as well. Okay, but now you see that the text appears at the top left corner, right? So what we have to do, you can just wrap it with a center widget. Then you'll see that it appears in the center. And then we give the column right over here the property of main axis alignment and main axis alignment dot center, which brings it right to the center of the screen. Now that is looking lovely. And of course, I can't help myself. Hello world! Yay! You're officially a programmer. Cool. So cool. So now you just saw how that works. Now instead we want to have an image, right? So I want to have this image over there above the text. So that's simple to do. So here's the text, right? So just go above the text and then you enter a circular avatar. Since we do want a circular image, we use a circular avatar image. Then you can already see that that includes a circular avatar. And then we want to make the radius bigger or the size bigger. Let's set that to 24. How does that look? Too tiny. Let's see, 60? Nah, let's go 80. 80 looks appropriate, right? Yeah, it should. And then we want to give the circular avatar an image in the background. So what we can do is that we can use this background image widget. So for images, there are like two ways you can handle it, right? So you can have images which are loading over from the internet or from a server. So then that will require you to use a network image. Or you can have images which you have already stored in the mobile application. In that case, those images we will have to store in the root folder, in a new folder which we call assets. So the assets folder will contain your folders for the fonts, it will contain your images, as well as all of the other assets which will be used in your application. So over here we need to have a circular avatar with a background image, and the background image should use an asset image over here. And now we actually need to add the image of the user or okay, so for this demonstration I've chosen the picture of this lady. The picture of this lady. I'm not just going to rename that over to lady. And then what we need to do next is that we need to register this image in the pubspec.yaml file. So we need to tell Flutter that, hey, in order for you to find our images, you need to check in the assets folder. So what you can do is that you just scroll down, and over here you actually have it already set in the boilerplate code. You just remove the comments. Just remove the comments. And then in assets, we create another folder which we'll call img. And in img, we put the lady image G. So now the image is recognized. That's good. Now we can close the pubspec.yaml file. And then we set the asset image to point to assets. Assets. img lady.jpg. Then you hit save. And then you should see that the image would have changed over to the lady. By the way, just a handy dandy shortcut. If you do not want to manually enter it the way I did, you can just click and drag on the image while holding the shift button in between the location marks, and it will give you the relative location of the actual image and where it's stored. So now, so far our app is looking good. I mean, we're close to the target, which we have. So now we have the image. And then what's next? What does our design dictate? Our design says that, hey, we should have the name of the person after their image. So what we can do is that we change the text over here in this widget over to say your name, for instance. That's looking good. That's looking good. But hey, I want to change this font because right now I believe it should be Roboto, which is the default. Yeah, it should be Roboto. I want to change that. So what we need to do is that in the assets folder, we go back there, create another folder inside assets, and we call it fonts and tutorial. And then we just choose the regular version, medium, and the bold version. You can select these individually by holding the control button, and then clicking on the images. And then we just drag them over into the fonts. Okay, I think we just need the regular and the bold. And then next we have to go back to the pubspec.yaml file and make it aware that we had included new assets. So over here you should already find it commented out. You can uncomment multiple lines in VS Code by holding Control and the forward stroke, forward slash. And then in this case, we only need the spot. So the family is DM Sans, and then we need DM Sans regular and DM Sans bold. DM Sans bold, and we need to set the bold weight to 700. So this should tell Flutter that, hey, we have a new asset which we want you to register, and then once it's done, it will say that, okay, it got the dependencies. But then how do we actually register the font, or how do we see it in work? So you have two options or two styles. One, you can either go directly to the text style property and select font. Ooh, let me just shift this over here so you can see as I'm typing. Font family, you can set it to DM Sans. Oh yeah, and if you notice, it actually changed. Oh, silly me. Forgot to tell it that nope, check in the assets folder. That's why that didn't work. The assets folder, assets, assets. So now it should recognize the fonts properly. So now just for demonstration sake, you'd have seen that we would have loaded the fonts DM Sans and Oxygen. So now once you see, if I change this over to DM Sans and reload, save, the font has changed. And if I change it over to Oxygen, the font has changed. So you can see that by the way the letter A is changing. So now, say for instance, I have multiple text widgets, right? And all of them need to have Oxygen. This is a tedious way to control them or to control the fonts. Instead, what we could do, which is much better, is that we can change the file in a theme. So what we do is that we just create a theme, then we type, this theme is of type theme data, and we're going to set the font family to DM Sans. So now our application will use DM Sans throughout because of the theme declaration which we had set. Then if you want to override it, you can of course change it, but then you will see that if I remove this, it should switch over right back. That is good. By the way, you'll notice that as I'm typing the widgets, they are realigning themselves as I save. This is because of the commas which I placed after the trailing widgets. So this helps very nicely with formatting, and then it also makes your code look clean so that you can follow along as a story. So normally I guess it's a best practice to put those so that you have the alignment kicking in properly. So now we have that going good for us. So back to the rules of our design, we have this, the name of the user appearing bolder. So we give, in order to make the text bolder, we give it font weight, and we say font weight should be of type bold, font weight.bold. And we also see that the user's name is not white, but it's colored. So we give it our own custom color. This should be the light blue, color light blue. So just gonna say FF OX FF. That should give it the light blue color. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then right beneath it, we have the title, which is in white. So what we can do is copy that widget and paste it. And then we just change this text over to UI UX designer. And we need it to be much smaller. So I change this over to 36. And we don't want it to be bold. So we can remove that. Then actually let's make it smaller, say 32. You see that our design is starting to take shape now, right? If you place a const on this, this will appear blue. But if you place a const right over here, that will remove those squiggly blue lines. But either who. Okay, so this text has to be that white. Okay, looking good, looking good. And then we have to have this whole email address label going on. So in order to do that, we have to make use of what we call a list tile widget. So just type list tile, and then the list tile should have a, let me see if I can get this right. The list tile should have a title property, and the title in this case is a text of gmail.com. Okay, it's appearing, it's just that it's very, very tiny, right? And of course, we can fix that by just copying over the attributes which are over in the UI UX portion. Just add a style section, text style, and then we copy these properties over here, these two, from the style. We just copy them again so you can see nicely. Just copy those and then we paste them. Oh, it has to be color. If I save that, you'll see that the font changes. But then let's make this smaller, say 24. And we also want our list style color to change over to the light blue color, right? We can do that. by changing the tile color property. So just outside of the purple, but inside the yellow or inside the list tile over there, we just add the tile color property and we make it the same color here, this color over here. So you can see that we're basically copying and pasting the same color over and over again, right? Which will cause inconsistencies. So normally what we do to overcome this problem is that in the lib, we create something called a constant folder, and then we create a constant dot file. Then in this constant dot file, we import material dot, and then we can extract this color. So you can extract the local method, and we'll call this k. K is normally the standard to choose for constants. So k prime, we can call this k primary blue, and then just cut out the local variable which is created in there. Okay, so we just extract it and then we give it a name of k primary blue. And then over here we right click on it and then we import our constants folder. So now instead of, then we save. So instead of us typing out the whole hex value, we just say k primary blue, which will change the color. And then this color, of course, is a constant, so it remains constant. We can also do the same for the white color. We can call this k primary or just k white, and go to your constants file. Then you say const k primary or just k white equals the white color. So now whenever you want to change the white color in the future, you just go change it in one place and that will change throughout the application, theme. And then we'll also call this k white. There we go. Now in our design, you saw that this kind of has like rounded edges, right? So we can change that part or the style of the list style by giving it a shape property and giving it a rounded rectangle border. And then in the border, we set the border with radius dot circular, and circular should say, let's try 25. Okay, that makes it near rounded. What about 16? Okay, let's just have it as 12 then. So now the list tag should have that border radius going on for it, right? Okay, good. Now you should notice that there is no proper spacing between these guys over here or between the elements or the children of the um, column, let's use the right technical terms there. So what we can do is that we can space it out by adding a sized box. So a sized box is just, as the name implies, a box which has a size, and we give it a height of 8. So now I see that there's space between that. And then what we can do is say, oh, this is so much fun. So now you can just copy and paste 8, sorry, copy that sized box throughout, and it will start to align all of those guys. But instead, we don't want such a big size gap between the name of the user and their occupation. Instead, want a bigger space here, say 12, 16. Okay, that looks much better. That looks much better. So you should see that in the design, this is actually of a darker color. So our dark color is the scaffold background color right now. So what we do is that we just remove it, put it in our const folder and say const k dark blue equals that. And then in here we say k dark blue, we call it in there. And for the text, as you guessed it, we change this to k dark blue. Oh, it's looking a bit light. So let's give it a font weight of fontweight.w500, which should be semi-bold. Oh, we didn't call in the semi-bold version of DM Sans. So let's just have it as bold. Okay, so now the list style has the title of the email address. And then what we can do is that we can add something called the leading element. So the leading is what will appear right in front of. Material icon is a default icon package which comes for the material design. So we could say something like leading should be icon, an icon widget, which is of icons dot, let's see, email, and it will add an email widget for us. That is a pretty handy library. If you want, you can also swap out this library for something else like Font Awesome or box icons or the IBM class or Cupertino icons. It's really up to you. Or you could also download an SVG icon which you created, say, in Inkscape, and then you put it in your assets folder, register it in pubspec.yaml, and then instead of an icon widget, you just call the asset image as we had done over here. Okay, cool. And we want our icon to have a color, and the color should be K primary blue. Oh no, that's the wrong one. K dark blue. Okay. So if you're wondering how actually with time you will start knowing the attributes of each of the widgets and which widget to use in which place. But it's also handy that when you hover over the class or over the widget, you will also get to see like the properties which can be assigned to that widget. And then in this case, we also want to increase the size of the widget. So we see size is available as an attribute. And when we just say that size should be 18, 50, that's too small. 24, 32. Okay, 32 is looking right. So it's pretty much good. We have the first list style out of the way. That is looking good. If you have this so far with you, well done. Congratulations. But then you'll see that there's no spacing around here. That's not very enticing. We want to have padding on the horizontal side. So in order to do that, we can just scroll right all the way back to our column widget and we wrap the column in a padding widget. So padding now will add space around the edge. Now you'll see that you have a padding all around the column of 8. Now the padding is smaller and this is all around. Or we can set it to 24 and it will appear as such. That is looking very good. I'm proud of you for getting this far. Good. So now that we have that going for us, yes, not min leading width, but horizontal title gap. That's why. Yeah, now you see that that gap is reduced, which is good, which is what we want. And then next, we can just copy the exact same list tile and then paste it. The reason why this is having issues because there's no comma to separate these two. And as you can guess, the reason why that's also happening is because we don't have a sized box in between. Sized box of height. Sized box which has height 8. So we change over the space into say 16. And that looks roundabout right. Can change this icon over to, what do we have here? A phone. Let's say icon.call. That changes it to a call icon, and then you can just change the name of, the number. So +26481. And that should change round about there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Well done, guys. Well done. You might want to make this a bit more rounded. Wouldn't hurt, right? And there we have it. This was the tutorial guide on how you can get comfortable with setting out the layout of your screen in Flutter. You know what? I'm actually going to make this, I'm going to put it on my GitHub repository. Then you can also download this code if you're interested in checking out how it works. And if you have any other ideas on how we can expand this little project, let me know, and this might become a whole tutorial series. This is exciting. But hey, did you notice how these two components are like nearly the same thing? Well, we can actually go further, I think, and say extract widget and call this contact det. We can actually create our own widgets. Did you know that? It's really cool. We can call this a contact detail widget, and then that will extract this out. This is actually a bonus round of the tutorial, by the way. By now, if you had clocked out, it's okay. But yeah, we can actually extract this and create a new folder, which we'll call widgets. And then in widgets, we'll create a new widget called contact detail, a dot, and we'll paste over that other widget which we had refactored. It's appearing red because we did not import. We did not import material.dot. And this is appearing red because we did not import constants. So now in theory, this also appears red because we did not import constants. So now what we had done is that we had created a reusable widget which we can reuse elsewhere in the application. So if you copy and paste this multiple times, you'll find that it creates that exact widget multiple times. So that's how you also create custom widgets. That's just a bonus round. But let's take it further, because basically the contact card or the contact detail class as well as this whole long thing, the email one. As you can see now, because it's super long, it makes our code look bloated, right? So what we can do, let's come up with something creative. Let's come up with something creative. Let's create a widget. So we can create a widget which is required, which takes in properties of what do we have over here? Hmm. Okay, let's create this widget to take in the property of the icon. So we can say icon, and then in the constructor, we put a required dot this icon. Is there something wrong? Oh, semicolon, of course. Now we have to make this final. So we create the icon. It should accept an icon. We are creating a widget which accepts an icon and also accepts the string, or we'll call this label. Actually, let's refine this name and say we are creating our own list style. So we are creating our own contact tile. Beautiful. That's actually a fitting name. So in Visual Studio Code, you can just press Control D to select the instance multiple times, and then you can edit it at once. Pretty cool, huh? We'll call this contact tile, and contact tile should accept an icon, and contact tile should also accept a label which is of type string. And we have to make this label required as well. Required this dot label. Good, 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 good. So then so far, icon to make it multi-user friendly. We set icon as icon. Let's see. Ah, it says here that this can be assigned to type of icon data. That's okay. We can change you. So now we create this widget. It can accept the icon, and then in the text, it can accept label. And then to remove the blue squiggly lines to give this, make it const. Now watch, and then we can also set the border radius as const, or the shape as const. Now watch this beauty. Now I can confidently remove all of this. And then I can call in contact tile. Contact tile should accept the icon. And the first contact tile which we want to create is one for the phone number or email, let's say email. And the label should be why is this guy having an issue? Let's check. Ah, okay, we had made it to accept this only. There we go. We just created our own custom Flutter widget called contact tile. So now in the future, say we can create another contact tile, give it an icon of call, Then give it a cell phone number 26481 DDD. By the way, if you actually want to send an email to a working email, you can send one to our company email. In fact, Achillex, we do software development. This is definitely not an ad, more self-promotion. But hey, why not? And then if you don't want to have this whole putting a sized box thing, what you can do is that you can go back to the contact card. Let's just change the name also to reflect what it holds. Then it will do auto refactoring. You can wrap the list style in padding and give it a padding of symmetric. So symmetric means it will either be only top and bottom or left and right. But in this case, top and bottom we want vertical. So this should in theory assign padding automatically without us having to add sized boxes. And then if you are still up in the mood for it, you can actually take those sized boxes and put them as constants as well. So this was a sized box of 16, and then over in the code you can just add the spacer for k height 16. So that part has been refactored. Then you can create another widget which we'll call k height 8, and in constants say const k height 8 to define that. Then you save it, and then our code immediately starts to look much better and much shorter and much cleaner. And then again, say you want to add another detail. Now do you see how decoupled and how more flexible our application is? So say now if I want to add something like website, let's see, icons.internet. Is there something like that? Sometimes you just have to try your luck with these things, honestly. Icons, let's say, let's give it the search icon. Now, do you see how more flexible our application is? And then I'm going to put the website to our actual company business. So someone else might want to make this better and allow these tiles to be clickable. Then when you click on them, they'll actually go over to these details. But hey, that's up to you. So thank you so much for sticking around to the very end of the tutorial. I hope you found it very fun and easy to follow through. If you have any other inquiries, just reach out, and if you'd like to see us expand this project much further, just let me know in the comments. Cheers and have a lovely one, fellas. Goodbye.